Hello everybody, this is our online lesson on IELTS writing task number 2. My name is Gulmira Bazarbaeva and I will be your teacher for this lesson. Today we will talk about two topics on IELTS writing task 2. So we will discuss the same general subject but according to the different focus. The aims of the lesson are to develop understanding of topics in IELTS writing task 2. And the key learning objectives are you will be able to analyze task 2 essay questions, learn the 3 attributes of interpreting essay questions, practice to identify keywords, qualifying words, and action words, learn 3 components of introduction. Okay, let's start. Let's imagine, if you are given an essay topic, what ideas come to your mind? We have a minute to think about this. Right, you first need to understand the question. What is the main focus of an essay if you are given this title? So the title is Technology is becoming increasingly prevalent in the world today. In the not too distant future, technology will completely replace the teacher in the classroom. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Okay, firstly, we need to brainstorm some ideas about it. One possible idea is to identify keywords of the title. So the keywords are the topics that can be included in your written response. If we go back to the previous example, we can see that keywords of this essay are technology and education. Now we can see the direction of our essay. Please have a look at these words, technology and education. The second thing is to see the attributes of the question. We call them qualifying words, we mean that they are the words in the question which tell the student how the various ideas relate together. They are often the words that present opinion. Right, you are right. The qualifying words of our essay are increasingly prevalent and completely replace. Let's move on. And I have a question for you. What kind of opinion is expressed by means of these qualifying words? Okay, so increasingly prevalent or completely replace. Well, you can answer this question if after analyzing this table. Here are some examples of the qualifying words, and your task is to match them with their meaning. So, contrast, compare, or unexpected results. And the right side column, you can find the words themselves. Your task is to match them with their meaning. You have about 5 minutes to complete the task. Well, now let's see the answers. Compare. In the same vein, likewise, similarly, this mirrors, just as, has in common, moves in tandem, parallels, alike, like, reflects, almost the same. Contrast. Despite this, while, whereas, however, on the other hand, differs from, in contrast to, controversially, unlike, and although. And the last one is unexpected results. Bizarre, strange, against expectations. I believe that all of you have done this task successfully. Okay, let's practice some action words. Well, action words are the words that elicit response from the student. In the above example essay question, our action words are: do you agree or disagree with this statement? As it is this phrase that is calling the student to do something, to take an action, and to be a part of that action. Examples of action words. Asking the student to support or refute. They usually ask you to support or refute some questions or ideas. So they usually start with, do you agree or disagree? Where do you stand? Take a stand. How do you see the situation? Come to a reasoned conclusion. If you see these kind of expressions at the beginning of the sentence, then you probably see the action words and you know what to do and how to answer them. And we will help you to find out this from the examples. Asking the student to compare. You can find another example here. Contrast these two ideas. Compare these issues. Discuss these ideas. These are also the examples of action words. One more example. Asking the student to analyze. You might be asked to analyze, and the following words will help you to understand. Present a discussion on this issue, discuss this topic, and analyze this topic. Easy, right? Remember, it is very important to understand essay title, as you may lose all your points if you write an answer to different question. Now let's move further. Did you know that introduction part of your essay is a first impression of your writing? So let's practice writing introductions. Before we start, I want you to answer the following questions. What should be in the introduction? What is the hook? What is the background? What is the controlling idea? And what is the thesis statement? You have about 2 minutes to answer these questions. Okay, so I hope that you answered all of these questions, and the following information will help you find out and check yourselves. So there are 3 parts of introduction. The first one is the hook. You see it on the left side column. The second one is background information, and the third part of the introduction is a thesis statement. Part 1. The hook is an interesting statement, not a question, to catch the reader's attention. In most schools, physical education is mandatory. Some people think that these classes should be optional for children. Which do you believe and why? For example, exercise has been a vital part of children's learning for thousands of years. So, your hook will be, in most schools, physical education is mandatory. This is the statement that makes you interested in reading the following information. Next, background information has 2 parts. Well, the second part of the introduction is the background information. It also consists of 2 parts. In first part, you define the question, and in the second part, you show the importance of the question. Thus, the definition of the question, we need to show that we understand the question. For example, in most countries, children are required to attend gym class for several hours a week from grades 1 to 12. In this case, you are showing that you understand the question, you understand what you are talking about. And the second part of the background information is the importance of the question. We have to be persuasive here. Since many children feel incapable in sports and other physical activities, they would prefer optional physical education classes. So, I think it's quite clear. And the last part of the introduction, as Lizzie Simpson suggests, is a successful thesis statement. A thesis statement is usually one sentence. It is a statement, not a question. identifies the subject of the paper and takes a stand rather than simply announcing a subject. A thesis statement states the position of the writer in the IELTS test. It is also the goal of the writer in a simple sentence with several clear points, which will be discussed in the body paragraphs. For example, although some children do not want to participate in physical education, I believe these classes must be mandatory because they teach children health and cooperation. Okay, we have to discuss key points of the thesis statement, and the key points of the thesis statement should be parallel. Although some children do not want to participate in physical education, I believe these classes must be mandatory because they teach children health and cooperation. So if you use a noun for one reason, the second reason must be also the noun. And the first impression is very important. So let's practice writing introductions. Okay, topic 1. Question. Blood sports have become a hot topic for debate in recent years. As society develops, it is increasingly seen that an uncivilized activity and cruel to the helpless animals that are killed. Blood sports should be banned. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So, and sample IELTS essay introduction will be, despite the fact that killing animals for sport is popular in modern society, it remains a contentious issue. I believe that blood sports are cruel and uncivilized and so should be banned as soon as possible. As you can see, the first sentence consists of the topic plus some background facts on the topic which have been taken from the rubric. You can also observe that there is no hook in this example. The second sentence then gives the writer's opinion and tells us that in the essay, the writer will be arguing the reasons why it is cruel. The topic does not have to be in the first sentence, but it should be made clear somewhere in the introduction. You must always have a thesis. Now, I would like to know your opinion, and I want you to provide some feedback to me. What did we learn? This is the first question. What kind of features have you learned on this lesson? You have 2 minutes to answer my question. Question number 2. Would you like to use those features for your IELTS writing preparation? You also have a minute or 2 to answer this question. And the last question, do you have any more questions? Well, if not, we will watch the short video with some advice on IELTS writing task 2.
Hi there. My name is Emma, and in today's video, we are going to look at 5 ways to improve academic essay writing, okay? Or TOEFL writing, IELTS writing. This doesn't have to do with when you write a letter to your friends, okay? We're talking specifically about formal writing, maybe business writing, or academic writing. Okay, so let's get started. My first tip on how to improve writing is do not use contractions, okay? And again, this is for academic writing. So what is a contraction? Don't, can't, shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't, isn't, haven't, hasn't. Okay, so it's the short form of, for example, don't is the contraction of do not. Okay, so it's better to actually write out the word in full in academic and formal business writing. So instead of don't, use do not. Instead of can't, use cannot. And notice how with do not, it's actually 2 words. Cannot is just 1 word. Shouldn't becomes should not. Couldn't becomes could not. Wouldn't, would not, isn't, is not, haven't, have not, hasn't, has not. Okay, so don't use these, use these. Okay, so now let's look at tip number 2. So tip number 2 is avoid there is or there are. Okay, so why do we avoid there is or there are? Well, one of the reasons is when we write, we want to write our ideas clear and concise, meaning we don't want these long sentences. We want our sentences to be to the point. There are adds extra words that are not needed. So let's look at some examples. A, there are many issues that students face at university. So that's an okay sentence, but if I wanted to make it a better sentence that is more appropriate for academic writing, I would change it. I'd get rid of there are, and I would say instead, students face many issues at university. So you don't need there is or there are. A second example, there are many development projects that the UN supports. Okay? Again, we don't need there are. We could just change it to the UN supports many development projects. By getting rid of there is and there are, your sentences become stronger and to the point. So tip number 3 is avoid words. So don't use words in academic writing such as really, very, a lot. I'm going to add another one. So. Okay? This weakens your writing. Your writing isn't as strong if you use these types of words. So let's look at some examples. Many students think university is very hard. Okay, so now we have very. How could I improve this sentence? Well, instead of using very hard, just use a stronger word in the first place. Say, many students think university is difficult. Okay? There are many cars, I just broke a rule, sorry. Many cars speed very fast. You could get rid of the very in that sentence, come up with a stronger word for it. So let's look at number B, sentence B. Bill 399 is really controversial. So again, in academic writing, avoid the usage of really. We could just say Bill 399 is controversial. The sentence sounds better. It sounds more formal. Okay. C. A lot of the students, I didn't finish this sentence. I could say a lot of the students live on campus. Now, instead of using a lot, we could use the word many students. So we use many if we can count the noun, if it's countable. So instead of using a lot, use many. Or if our noun is not countable, if it's a non-count noun, we can use much. So we get rid of a lot. So instead of a lot of the students, now we have many students. Many students face problems in their first year of university. Much time is wasted because of procrastination. Okay? So many and much are both words that are better to use than a lot. And again, the rule is avoid the usage of really, very, a lot, and so. So our fourth tip when it comes to academic writing is if you are in the sciences, it's okay to use the passive. Don't use it too much, but it's okay and normal to use the passive voice. And I'll explain what that is in a second. But if you are studying humanities, social science, history, psychology, these types of subjects, do not use the passive voice. Use the active voice. So for most university writing, we use the active voice. So what is the passive voice and what is the active voice? So here is an example of the passive voice. Healthcare reforms were implemented by Obama. Okay, so notice first we have a form of the verb to be, and then we have the past participle of implement, in this case implemented, so you see an ed, and then oftentimes we have the word by someone. So this is an example of a passive voice sentence. Healthcare reforms were implemented by Obama. So what is the problem with using the passive voice? Well, it takes away the fact that Obama is the one who implemented the reforms. The sentence is sort of weak, a little bit awkward. It would be much better if we had the actor who is Obama, so the person, the verb, and the object. Obama implemented healthcare reforms. So this is the active voice. Okay, so if you can, have the subject, then the verb, then the object, instead of the passive voice. So here is another example of this. If I wrote in the passive voice, I would write, the war was, so here we have a form of the be verb, won, so here's the past participle of win, by, so another keyword, the French. The war was won by the French. So this is, again, a passive voice sentence. It's a passive sentence, but it's still a little bit weak. In academic writing, we want strong sentences. And a strong sentence has the actor, or the person performing the action, at the beginning of the sentence. So instead, a better sentence would be, the French won the war. So the final tip in this video is when you write academically, use strong verbs. Okay, so what is a strong verb? And what is a weak verb? So I'm going to give you an example. I could say, he gave assistance to my friend. Okay, this is a very weak way of saying, he gave assistance to my friend. In a stronger way, I could instead just say, he assisted my friend. So what is the difference between these two sentences? Well, in this sentence, assistance is a noun. So a better way to write this sentence, anytime you have a verb and a noun, and you look at the noun, and it could be its own verb, use this in a verbal form instead. So for example, he gave assistance should become he assisted. Okay, so this is stronger. Let's look at another example. So here I have a weak verb, made an objection. He made an objection. Okay, so again, we have a verb and then a noun, objection. But objection can be its own verb. So to make it stronger, we get rid of made and we turn objection into its verbal form, objected. He objected. So he objected is better than he made an objection. Okay. Another example. Here we have our example of the weak verb. She conducted an investigation. She conducted an investigation. Well, when I look here, I see the word investigation and I think, does investigation, does this noun, have a verb form? Well, yes, it does. Investigate. So instead of saying, conduct an investigation, she investigated something. It's a lot better. It's stronger. Okay, finally, for our fourth example, the weak verb is did an audit. They did an audit on Wesley Snipes. I don't know. Poor joke, maybe. They did an audit on someone. So again, I see the word audit. So here's a verb, and here's a noun. When I look at this noun and I think audit, is there a verb form of the word audit? Yes, there is. Wesley Snipes was audited. But again, I told you not to use the passive, so I could say the government audited Wesley Snipes. Okay? So there you have it, 5 tips that will quickly improve your academic writing. So if you would like to practice some of these tips, come visit us at our website at www.ingvid.com. Until next time.
I wish you best of luck. Goodbye.